Step on up and come on in, here's where the fun begins. There's so much to do. Get ready just for you. Everybody singing, wishing you a Disney afternoon. Hey, those were not the words, but I don't give a shit, you turd. Because we're singing all about the digging. The Disney afternoon. Ba-da-bam.
You remember more lyrics from that.
We got the title card there.
Now, if you had done Rescue Rangers, that would have been a whole different story.
Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. Chip and Dale. When there's danger, no, it never fails. See, I love it when I could just see the guys like, it never fails.
Got the moves. Where's and why's and who's.
The people who do those songs are just so fucking into it. I mean, they're just like, it sounds like they're putting their all into it. It's like, no, you understand, man. This is a magical adventure. I want it to be like, the gateway to heaven. It's just the most joyful, awesome,
and oh so delicious
gummy bears.
Oh, those singers. I wonder if they were all done by like the same group or something.
Oh yeah.
Tailspin.
Oh yeah.
Tailspin. Run through life through thick and
okay, the whole thing is just gonna be us singing the songs, nothing else. No, we're gonna be talking about the Disney Afternoon, a video that does, I guess, not surprisingly well, but I'm really happy it does well. I didn't think it'd do
because
as well
the Disney Afternoon was amazing.
It's. Yeah, at a point, looking back more and more, as much as I love a lot of the shows I grew up with, so many of them were not good. I'm just looking back and I'm seeing the commercial value now and the selling the toys and stuff like that. And Disney Afternoon, I think, was just at the cusp when like Tiny Toons was coming out and then Fox Kids was starting to get put together. And Disney Afternoon was kind of there before them. So I do almost feel like this was kind of the start of that.
As strange as it sounds, because it's fucking Disney. They didn't feel like they were meant to sell toys.
Yeah.
That's the weird... I mean, think about that. A Disney product did not feel like it was invented just to sell toys, but it's true. Every one of those shows, at least up until some of the later ones, I didn't feel like, oh yeah, this is just a shill to sell some toys. They were creative, they were inventive, and god damn it, what was up with the Mighty Ducks?
Well, that gets into what I think holds up so well about it, is that they really... We can still watch them now, and yeah, they're for little kids, but they're still very creative and very innocent. I just always think the word innocent and timeless. They're timeless shows.
Up until a certain point, they were not about trying to be hip or all up in your face with, like, pop culture. It was very pre-Aladdin that way.
Yeah, and we like Aladdin, don't get me wrong. But the movie, anyway,
but there is that double-edged sword of, like, as funny as Aladdin is, that kind of kickstarted that whole, like, ooh, let's have a bunch of in-jokes for the adults, and let's make fun of pop culture. And, like, while Aladdin did it well, like, the cartoon shows that came after that, like, 92, 93, like, started to slide slowly
Well, you
down.
had Robin Williams there. I mean, you just had this comic genius doing all this stuff, and you get to animate Robin Williams. That's just amazing.
Well, and it's that transition from, like, the kind of late 80s aesthetic into the 90s, where it was like, just tell an entertaining story, and that slowly gave way to the extreme! And it's just like, oh god, that sucks.
Even the Robin Williams thing, though, did you ever see, I think it was like the third Aladdin movie, it was like for VHS or whatever, and they got him back to do it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I saw a little bit, and that is clearly, like, they didn't say stop when they needed him to stop, or they just kept going. We got him, let's do everything we can with him, and it's like, in the first movie, it kind of went a little far, but it's like,
was it
mostly stopped at the last
on the big screen?
No.
Then I didn't see it, and I am okay with that.
But, that was a case where it's like, wow, there was like 3 or 4 scenes you could have easily cut with Robin Williams, or at least cut them down, but anyway.
But yeah, Disney Afternoon, this is hands down one of my favorite reviews that we did.
It was...
For one thing, I got to watch all of the Disney Afternoon shit.
Yeah, it actually was like
at
really
first
fun.
was really good, and then it slowly became a dear God, turn it off kind of thing going on, but...
Again, kind of started with Goof Troop, and I don't dislike Goof Troop. But it kind of starts there, yeah, because then it's like we're taking out the imagination and the different worlds and everything. We're just suburbia.
I never hated Goof Troop, because that would have required an emotional investment in Goof Troop I never even had to begin with. But I was so apathetic to Goof Troop, so just didn't care. Like, hating Goof Troop would mean that it was so awful. It wasn't even that, it was just... all of the shows up until you had really, if we're going way back, you had like the Wuzzles in the 80s, then Gummy Bears, and then you had DuckTales, Rescue Rangers, Tailspin. The idea was take these classic characters and put them in like this really cool setting or something that was kind of out there. It was creative and inventive. Like the Rescue Rangers was kind of like a cross between the Littles and stuff and the Flintstones, where let's take ordinary devices and like build like an airship or balloon out of it, and
they're capitalizing on already timeless ideas.
Yeah, and Goof Troop was the first one where I'm like, wow, this is really not very imaginative. Like, it's just like, all right, we're gonna have Goofy, he's gonna have a kid, and they're gonna be living in the suburbs. Hijinks, like that was it, and their neighbor's gonna be Pete, and oh, it'll get wacky, and like it. That was it. I'm like, really, this. After all of these shows, like some domestic suburban drama, or
well,
I'm not even drama, but some domestic like suburban
Goofy
sitcom.
gets serious. Yeah, he's going against his name type.
Max, I've been diagnosed with cancer.
Oh no,
Dad, that's terrible.
Wow. Now you got me thinking of Goofy with cancer.
That would have been interesting.
But no, going to what you were saying about the actual...
But Goof Troop... the only thing I'll say in defense of Goof Troop is it was mostly harmless.
Well, and the stuff with Pete's family, you have to admit, is great.
Pete's family is what made that show work. It certainly wasn't Max. What was Pete's son's name? Was it PJ?
PJ, yeah.
I'm not even going to say it was PJ. Max, PJ, and Goofy himself, I thought were the most boring characters.
PJ's
his wife, and Pistol, though.
No, PJ
fucking hilarious.
PJ with the family is funny.
Okay, with the
he
family,
is so
yeah.
paranoid and afraid of his father and everything.
When it's just him and
such
Max,
a pawn.
though, not so much. But yeah, whenever Pete enters the picture, it's legitimately really funny.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, I don't know.
Some of the delivery from the actress who did Max, watching it again, it could be funny. She's a comedic actress, and she's...
Was.
A comedic actress.
Sadly.
And, has had training with, Chevy Chase and Jason Alexander.
Yeah,
and
she was
Duckman
Audrey in
the
National Lampoon.
And she's
Vacation
hilarious in
films.
that. So some of her deliveries are very, very funny, but the character itself is just not written that great.
Yeah, it's not an acting problem, it's just a writing problem. None of the writing on the show, outside of whatever problems Pete has in his domestic situation, was never that funny. But give it this much. At least it was not sucked into the whole extreme thing, like it was the beginning of that.
Yeah.
So it still is way more toned down than like later bullshit like fucking Quack Pack and
it was still trying to be
Ducks.
funny, like, hey, an adult can watch this and still like it and laugh and stuff like that. It's just not as good.
It's not timeless. You still look at that and go like I could put on Tailspin and DuckTales and Rescue Rangers is timeless. And Gummy Bears, Darkwing Duck, unless you knew animation that well and knew the timeline of it, you wouldn't guess when it was made. But Goof Troop I can already start to feel. I'm like, this is 90s-ish, but still not as obnoxiously so as the later one. The later ones are painfully 90s.
Those hurt. But yeah, you were talking about this is one of your favorite reviews to film. Really mine too. Setting up that room, first of all, was so much fun. I had so much junk food. And when you start to sort of eat that junk food and you're surrounded with it, like, it is like... You do sort of start to go in a time capsule, like, wow, I really am kind of back in the 90s here. This is a little surreal.
All right, we just got home from school. Crack open those little Debbie oatmeal pies and let's go to town.
Yes! And I was a total sweetaholic. Still
you had a fruit roll-up thing, too. That was the fruit snacks, fruit roll-ups, it was... Yeah, because they had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fruit snacks.
Oh, in that case,
you were all over that. Yeah.
That wasn't first, that was just Turtles. Anything Turtles, I was all over.
No, to me, there was nothing but those little Debbie oatmeal cookie things.
No, those were, but we didn't have that many, so I always go to my neighbor's house to get those, because they always had a ton, and then I'd, eat the whole box, because I had a huge appetite.
Fucking amazing.
But, we were talking about Disney Afternoon, damn it.
It's all, it's the
it is part of the experience,
yeah.
So much of it
the late 80s, early 90s for us.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it is kind of like the experience. I really want to recreate that. And I think that's why people relate to it so much, is because they really do remember the posters, and we just had a lot of those posters still. We have them at the studio. And yeah, I think people sort of remember the snack. A lot of snacks are still around, but it's like, again, find those specific ones that were back even back then. Yeah, and I think that's why, you got stuff like whatever, like Pokemon and Ninja Turtles and stuff that was fun and is a huge part of your childhood, but it's, clearly dated. I think that's why Disney Afternoon does hold such a strong place in people's hearts, because you can still watch it, even though it's clearly for kids. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not quite like Batman or Animaniacs. I'll
tell you the difference,
wow,
too.
I could still watch this, like, as an adult, I like it even more, but I have more of a respect for the Disney ones because they did show such restraint,
and
not
it wasn't
going
about
for all the adult jokes.
It didn't feel like a cheap corporate shill. Like, I mean, as much as I find Turtles hilarious, still, originally, it's like, we gotta sell some toys.
Yeah, we gotta make some catchphrases.
Whereas this one, they had the characters first. It's like, okay, we have these properties. How do we come up with an interesting show that kids will want to watch? Like, that felt like that was their number one goal first. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, not to say the toys and everything aren't, they clearly are.
Oh, yeah, and not to say that you can't have an entertaining show that was meant to sell toys. I mean, I liked the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But there is something kind of special about when you feel like the writers were taking extra care to come up with something really interesting. And to be fair to Turtles, I think they were trying that too. They're like, okay, how are we going to make this work?
And they were comic writers and stuff like that. But yeah, fucking Gummy Bears! They made a cartoon out of the candy, and it was surprisingly really creative and fun. They all had distinct characters.
How would you just want to be there, just sitting at Disney Studios, and then just literally Eisner walks in, my kids like to eat gummy bears. Make a show now! And you're just like, like, what do you do with that? And yet they somehow coughed up something that was pretty decent.
If you hear some buzzing, by the way, then Gardner's out there, so sorry about that. Yeah, you sort of have, like, this is why whenever somebody's like, oh, you can't do anything with the idea, you can't, it's just a dead idea and stuff, it's like,
bullshit.
No, you can, but there are some that are more difficult than others, but yeah, I think a lot of that limitation can really, really help you, because it's like, well, on the one hand, you have to make a show about the gummy bears, this candy, and there's no story behind it or anything, but on the other hand, you can do whatever you want, and that's sort of what's great about it. Fucking Richard Williams did this Raggedy Ann movie when nobody did anything on Raggedy Ann, and I'm sure it's not at all what people expected when they did Raggedy Ann, but it's like, he's just like, I'm gonna do whatever I want then. He saw the potential, he just made something totally batshit crazy. I don't know if it's good, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's a total trip.
They were creative, they were timeless. They took their audience pretty seriously. Like, Gummy Bears had its medieval setting. DuckTales was like fucking Indiana Jones. That first story arc was amazing.
Yeah,
well, that was one of the few cartoons we saw from the beginning. Because we saw it when it premiered, and we were watching that whole story arc unfold, and, that whole first 2 hours of the show, when they're trying to find the lost city of gold or whatever, was really legitimately, like, interesting if you were, like, an 8-year-old at the time.
Well, I think with Disney, one of the things that Disney really has, I mean, just, like, 80% of the time, whether it be its shows or its movies or whatever, is that it has atmosphere, and it has a feel, and it has an environment, and every single one of those shows, like Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck, Tailspin, and DuckTales, they all have their unique kind of feel to them. They all have, like, kind of their own unique environment. Darkwing Duck obviously is kind of like, a funny Batman and so forth, but that's
crossed with the Shadow, though. It's like that's what I like about it. It was a mixture of everything, because there was very much this, there was a Batman feel to it, like his sort of duck plane or whatever, and the city was vaguely Gotham-esque, but the outfit is actually more the Shadow. Yeah. He's got the cape, he's got the hat.
Well, even the villains are kind of a combination of, like, the Marvel and the DC, and again, even kind of the radio villains.
I mean, they had an obvious Joker there, but some of them look like something out of a Marvel comic instead, and, what was his name?
Which one? Oh,
the Jester guy.
Oh, Quackerjack.
Quackerjack, nice. I fucking love that that show.
Well, and the funny thing is, watching them again, I actually bought the DVD of Darkwing Duck after I was watching those episodes again. I'm like, I want this show. I actually want this show. And watching it again, there's definitely, like, don't get me wrong, there's definitely, like, awkward moments where it's like, okay, this is kind of like early 90s kids show. We're not perfected yet. We can't get away with anything yet. But it was still smart.
Like that.
And it's still people trying to see what can they get away with in a kid show. Nowadays, and thank God, kid shows are amazing right now. They really, really are. And, I mean, from what I've seen anyway, I mean, so many are taking them so much more seriously.
It basically was Disney's version of, like, The Tick. Mm-hmm. Like, if you cross The Tick with, like, Batman.
But you know what I'm saying? They're...
Like, but it was not as, like, the Tick, I think, skewed in an age group a little higher. But it had that same quality of, like, making fun of superheroes while also trying to tell a legitimate superhero story.
And I think that time, you know, like I said, of, like, you know, kind of Darkwing Duck and Batman, X-Men, Animaniacs and stuff, and Tiny Toons and stuff, they were all experimenting to seeing what they could get away with in kid shows in terms of how much effort are we allowed to put in? Because there was such a push in the 80s just to sell the toys. You know, just get them out as quickly as possible. So there was kind of this thought of how much can we sort of play and make this smart and make this interesting and do whatever we want, but also make it kind of kid-friendly. And today, the experimentation has gone so much further to where they're really, really playing with so many different ideas. Like I said, with Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Gravity Falls. I mean, there's just, it's a real golden age right now. But you see where it kind of started. I think it did sort of start around with kind of the Disney Afternoon and Fox Kids and stuff.
And you can see where it kind of died later in the 90s, too.
Until
we had a renaissance.
Yeah, and it did go dead for a while. I guess I can't act like, you know, I'm a huge connoisseur of kids' entertainment. I feel like when
Disney started dying is when Cartoon Network started picking up the slack. And you had Nickelodeon starting to get into it a little bit. Like, I feel like there was something about the whole Disney Afternoon thing going down the toilet. That's when you started seeing things like Samurai Jack and stuff crop up. And, you know, so things moved elsewhere. But I felt like the Disney side of it definitely had a period of time where it was just like,
yeah, well, you know, and the kids... See, as the thing, kids grow up, and then they're not interested in the shows, and then you'll probably have, like, you know, this sort of valley of nothing that good coming out, because it's like, well, now we have to find what the next generation is going to like and what the next big thing is going to be.
You mean Mighty Ducks won't be timeless? Or
right?
Quack Pack?
You know, but I mean, didn't Pokemon pick up kind of after the Disney Afternoon died? It's like, okay, now everything's anime. Yeah. And we start getting into Digimon and Pokemon, they start getting all these anime.
I don't think kids' entertainment died as a whole. Mm-hmm. But there are people who've studied the history of Nickelodeon who will tell you what the peaks and valleys of Nickelodeon were, and same thing with Cartoon Network. And I feel like that with Mighty Ducks and Quack Pack, that was a valley. Yeah. That was like, we are exhausted, we are out of ideas. How can we just try to appear to be hip? And that's the thing, whenever Disney tries to be hip, they're so bad at it. Yeah. They suck so hard at trying to be hip like that. And like, I just remember seeing the ad once for Quack Pack, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't. Like, the only reason I ended up watching any of it is because we had to review it, and even that was just painful.
I think we saw, because I remember that's when, I can't remember if it was like the death of like a little bit of my childhood. I don't mean that like a bad way, it was more like growing up or whatever, but I remember we moved to Rhode Island, and I think I was starting like 8th grade or 9th grade or something like that, and like, the cartoons were coming on. Hey, Disney Afternoon. I kind of like Disney Afternoon, whatever. And there was Quack Pack and Mighty Ducks.
Let's try to cling to what little of my childhood is left.
And Bonkers was still on and stuff. And I'm kind of watching this. I'm like, you know,
honestly, Bonkers was the least offensive.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of watching this like...
That one wasn't that bad. It was just kind of meh.
I was kind of saying to myself, like, I think I'm done with cartoons. You know, and that was kind of when the Superman-Batman thing was happening. And that was a little... And Batman Beyond, which weren't bad, but they weren't as good. And it was one of those things where I sort of mistook it for, I think I'm just growing up and this is kid stuff now. When really, I think it's kind of true. We were growing up, so less people were watching it. But I think that also means less effort and money was being put in as well. And now they're trying to find the next thing, which was, you know, Pokemon or whatever. But again, I mean, now we're doing vlogs on kid shows today. Because they're trying so much harder, and they are trying so hard to get the audience, the older audience in there, which they're seeing the profit and the importance of it, so they're trying so much harder. And yeah, kids' movies nowadays are, you know, yeah, we got like Marvel and stuff, but really like original ideas. I mean, it's like, stuff like the Kung Fu Panda and Inside Out and stuff. I mean, that's kind of
and the thing
like
about
movie, it's the closest thing we have to like original.
And the thing about Adventure Time and Steven Universe and a lot of these shows is we'll be able to look back, and to some degree, like we'll be able to look back, look at the animation style, and be like, okay, 80s, early 90s, Disney afternoon, but there is a timelessness, I think, that's going to last with these shows. And whether you love them or hate them, or whether they really last throughout the decades, you're not going to look at it and go, man, that is so 2012, let me tell you. Like, it just exists in its own kind of world, whereas, like, now we're only, how many years after Quack Pack? Like, it's, what, 15...
I don't know.
But you look at something like I could look at something like Rescue Rangers and DuckTales and stuff, like Huey, Dewey, and Louie and DuckTales. There's nothing about them like, oh god, that is so 1990, that is so 1989 or whatever. I just, like, that is just so old. Like, no, because they just kept the characters timeless. Whereas you look at something like Quack Pack, and it's embarrassing. It is horrifically embarrassing to watch. Because you're just like, who greenlit this? Who thought, like, yeah, this is going to be hip? Like, the funny thing is, Quack Pack, at least for me, was dated, like, on arrival. Yeah. It was DOA. It dated on arrival. Because I was like, automatically, I'm like, wow, this is already 4 years behind what the 90s are supposed to be about. Like, on its release. And so now it's just even way worse.
There can be a charm to that, don't get me wrong. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is so obviously dated, but it's so...
It's a much better show, though.
But yeah, it is, I hate to use this word, extreme in how wrapped up in its time period it is, that it does create kind of this very charming, likable time capsule, and it did just go so far where something like Quack Pack just felt like it was... only trying to hit the demographic, and
but see, here's the thing. I will argue this. In a strange way, there is more of a timeless innocence to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, no, I agree.
Than there ever is.
No, because they were trying to make good characters anyway and make it funny.
Quack Pack is too fucking cynical for its own good. You can see literally the dude going, according to the chart, he should wear his hat backwards, and he should have sunglasses, and then he should all go...
Will Smith and all those people running the show, they grew up in that environment. They did wear those clothes, and he was a rapper before then, and he actually had
and
this
even if
background.
they didn't, it just didn't feel as obvious. Like, they hit it better. And with Mighty Ducks and Quack Pack and those shows, like, I don't even give Mighty Ducks this. I think that's the better show than Quack Pack. Like, because it's a stupid sci-fi plot, and it's ridiculous, but I'm like...
At least it's a little creative.
Yeah, it's a little more creative, but just... God, fucking hate Quack Pack. Sorry, that's my rant. Go talk about something positive.
No, it's fun because I kind of remember when they came out, and I was like I said, I was kind of getting out of cartoons anyway, but there was this part of me that felt kind of insulted and bad because I'm like, our kids really do kind of deserve better than this. They deserve better, and they deserve these timeless stories and effort.
They deserve what we got.
Kind of. And I was kind of feeling bad because that was also kind of during the dark age of films where we were getting like Godzilla and Battlefield Earth and Batman and Robin. And I was kind of... It was a very kind of cynical time.
There really was like this universal valley until about like... Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter crept back up.
And I was getting kind of cynical about entertainment because I love movies and I love entertainment. I love what they can do, and I was feeling kind of bad because I'm like, wow, people are not doing what they could be doing. And I did get in kind of a point where I'm like, wow, is this ever going to come back? Are we ever going to hit the high point? Now I know it's just part of the course. There's always going to be peaks and valleys in entertainment. You look at the history of film and TV and radio and stuff, it's all like that. There's always points where they sell out, run out of ideas, but something else comes up eventually. It just might take a few years. But it's also fun seeing how we got to that point. I think stuff like the Disney Afternoon played a big part because people did remember those stories and were inspired by them and said, let's try this next time
Between the
around.
Disney Afternoon and the WB stuff, the Batman...
Well, the Fox Kids stuff, I think you should call it like the Fox Kids stuff, but
Yeah, the Fox Kids stuff, but I mean, it was WB produced. That's why I was saying the stuff that Fox was running, between Disney Afternoon and the stuff Fox was running, like Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, Batman, I think the influence still extends to this day. Like, really what they paved, what the creative teams behind that did, we're still feeling the after effects of it. Mostly, I think, in a good way.
Yeah.
So even though it had that drop off, near the end, like the way animation completely dominates now, and the high quality. We forget this. Like the '80s were so perfect. It was so great. Like when I watch old '80s cartoons, I'm like,
they look pretty bad.
Wow. I'm like, this did not age well at all. Like I like it for nostalgic sake, but I'm like really when I want high quality animation, I really do have to look at like what they were doing on Disney in the '90s. And the same thing with Fox, and like that's where they really kicked it up another notch. Because otherwise, the '80s are just—they're not too far removed from old Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Like, really not. There is a cheapness to it, which is fun in its own way. There is a grittiness to it, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, like we traded up, in the '90s when it came to animation.
You know what I think? I think a lot of it is that you got these shows like Tiny Toons and the Rescue Rangers and Batman, Animaniacs, and stuff like that, inspiring this next generation, but the generation that was coming right after X-Men and Batman and stuff grew up with stuff like Transformers and whatever was before that, like Speed Racer, and stuff in the 70s. So when they were starting to take over, it's like I'm sure they were influenced by the other stuff, but then like whatever, producers or marketing, whatever, saying try this, and then they didn't know how to work within the environment, which I'm not saying that's easy, but so they were going in kind of with, just try to get kids what they like, and they're dying off, and, the fans, so let's try these, what does the chart say? Let's do Space Jam. Michael Jordan's popular, Bugs Bunny is popular, let's do that. But then the generation after that grew up with those shows like X-Men and Batman and Animaniacs, and now they're making these great shows now. So I'm looking
not
only
only that, but think about
come.
this. Now the irony is, I think we've gone full circle because our generation, which I think is in charge of half the stuff that's coming out now, our generation was also influenced by the stuff that came out in the 80s, and if you look at something like Steven Universe, which to me has like a 70s, 80s vibe to it, if you look at something like Adventure Time, and I think the animation is great, but there's a simplicity to it, almost like a very crisp, clean, gorgeous Hanna-Barbera simplicity to the animation, and a lot of these shows that are running on Cartoon Network and stuff, it's kind of funny. Like we went full circle, and then you have something high quality that like, Korra to me would be more like Batman the Animated Series was to us, or Gargoyles,
Well,
really
and I
high
think,
end.
But what's so brilliant about that, now a lot of these shows like Gravity Falls and Adventure Time and stuff, and Steven Universe, they have money now because they're big hits, but starting off, having those simple designs, but putting more focus in like, kind of the color and the stories and the characters and the voice acting, but having these simple designs are not, Finn is not hard to draw.
Yeah, it's a stylistic choice.
But it also saves time and money as well.
And it's funny because it reminds me of some of the stuff we grew up with as little kids.
Like Flintstones.
But, like the old Hanna-Barbera stuff or the Laugh Olympics, but it's so much cleaner and crisper. I mean, you can tell there's actual money behind it. Yeah. This is literally a stylistic choice.
Well, but I think there is also saving, like, on, it's like some shortcuts with that too.
Oh, I agree.
Because it's like, hey, if we can draw these characters really fast and easily.
I agree, but look at something like the cartoons we grew up with, where, you can see the sketch lines. There are mistakes left and right. I mean, some of it is because everything's gone to digital now. So, but when you look at the difference between the grittiness of what we grew up with versus what you have now, I mean, what you've got now, even when they're saving money, is still 1,000 times cleaner, crisper than
what's
we ever had growing up.
What's so funny, though, is that I think back then they had to design, because they were coming off of, like, Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse and stuff, so when they're doing, and even Tom and Jerry, so when they're doing something like Jetsons or Flintstones or these shows, they're trying to save money by cutting corners, and back then very cleverly, but they still had to have really good designs, and those designs take a while to draw, and it's still, for a lot of people, it's hard to draw, Fred Flintstone, unless you're an artist. Finn, anyone can draw Finn. Like, 2 dots, a smile, you draw a happy face, and then a little panda thing around, like, that's it, you got Finn. So it's very clever, because it just shows this is a way to work around it, to dance around it, but also get this great artistic style through other means. Kind of like what anime does when they get the close-ups of the eyes of the person talking. The reason it stylistically looks great, but they're doing it so they don't have to animate them out and save on animation. But they can put it in the fight scenes and the backgrounds and stuff. So it's very, very clever.
We could go on all day.
Yeah, it's like fucking talk about Disney afternoon,
right?
So sorry, it gets us talking about TV animations.
I know. What was your favorite show?
Favorite show?
Are we counting Gargoyles?
Yeah, we can count Gargoyles. It's part of it.
I gotta go. I mean, if I'm thinking objectively, what was the best? Probably Gargoyles. My favorite, though...
It's hard.
Yeah, they all had their
Gargoyles
strong
is
points.
probably... See, for me, in terms of what is actually the best, like best well done, for what they are, it's a toss-up between Gargoyles and DuckTales for me. Because they both delivered just perfectly and beyond...
DuckTales is good. I like
what they were probably
Yo,
even
let's go
expected to
favorite era. I'm gonna go DuckTales through Gargoyles. That whole... I'll tell you this. There was a lineup, and it was... There was a lineup for a while, and I think it... Was Gummy Bears still on that lineup? I don't know. I'm going to say it was DuckTales, Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck. And then when did
Tailspin, probably.
Oh, and Tailspin. That lineup of those four
that
was my absolute hands-down favorite lineup.
I couldn't miss any of those.
Yeah, I could not miss any of those four. Eventually, Goof Troop entered, and I could miss Goof Troop any day and be okay. I didn't hate it, but...
It wasn't like I have to see this.
I wasn't flipping out if I missed it. But if I missed any of those original four, holy shit.
Yeah, even Gummy Bears was good, but I'm not like, oh my god, I have to see Gummy Bears. Yeah, those four, those are the four I'm like, I gotta see. And they always had the little, on the next episode.
If the news interrupted, I'd be like, I don't care, we're fucking invading Iraq, give me Tailspin.
You know, that sort of gives an example of
because that happened. The news, there would be breaking news every once in a while in the middle of the Disney afternoon. I'd be like, no! We're bombing Baghdad. Who cares? The entitled white American kids need their guns.
But that
we're terrible people.
That kind of gives a reason, you're talking about the whole Goof Troop thing and why, like, I said you kind of see why you just wouldn't be as invested because they have little previews, today on the Disney afternoon, Baloo has to get out of these air pirates and stuff.
Fighting Don Kennard.
Yeah, and then Dale is going to fall into this trap. Can Chip save him in time? And
the Rescue Rangers join a cola cult.
Yeah, there's all stuff,
On DuckTales, they find a lost city of gold.
On Goof Troop, Max has to take a test.
Yeah, I was just like, come on.
And even though they were usually done fine, no problem, it's like you kind of see why,
And that to me, that was the start of it because that's when the 90s crept into the Disney afternoon, and it was no longer this innocent, timeless thing. That's when
the
they're
sitcom.
Like, well, we gotta appeal to the kids because we're the 90s and we're extreme, and it was not the worst by any stretch of the imagination, but it's where it started. It's where it started. It started there. And the next thing you know, we got fucking Quack Pack. God damn it!
I'm trying to think if there's any other stuff to say about it. I mean, it's pretty obvious its influence, and that still holds up. Even though, like I said, it doesn't hold up like something like Batman or Animaniacs holds up. I mean, those I can just. I show my wife Batman. She's not into really animation or anything, and I just showed her one episode, and she's like, "Oh, are there others?" I'm like, "Yeah," to put out another one, and soon every night we were watching a Batman episode. Like, she could just watch it at any time. Where with something like Rescue Rangers and stuff, it's good and it's innocent and it's
I couldn't watch all of them.
It's definitely like, still for little kids.
I would watch the episodes I remember most.
Yeah, but it's still so well done for little kids, but it's not hitting the adults as much, but there's still such a respect.
It's meant for like a very particular age range.
Yeah.
Once you get past the age of 15, they're not aiming at you, whereas Batman always felt like they were aiming at that teenage crowd. But yeah, it's still good. I wouldn't watch all of them. Like, I'm not going to go out and buy all of them on DVD. Like, but it's the sort of thing that, like, if I could pick some of my favorite episodes and have those on disc, I'd totally do it.
Yeah, like I got the DVD of Darkwing Duck I was watching. I'm like, even though it's some awkward moments, it's like this still really holds up, and I really like these characters, and I want to relive these again. Let me watch this again.
You know what else I love too? I felt like it was all the same fucking universe. Did you get that? Maybe not Rescue Rangers, but I mean...
Sometimes they do like a crossover.
Clearly, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, and Tailspin, I think, all occupied the same universe.
Well, no, Tailspin was like back in what was it, the 20s or something like that.
See, I never knew if it was supposed to be kind of like a timeless thing, like how Gotham City and Tim Burton's Batman
because they didn't have,
is 1989, but it also...
They didn't really have TV or anything, it was like mostly radio.
But they were on an island.
Maybe.
I would like to argue it's all the same universe. Gummy Bears, not so much.
Yeah. Gargoyles, not so much.
Gargoyles, but
yeah.
Rescue Rangers, Probably not. Because I think, aren't they just in a human world in Rescue Rangers?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but I definitely think...
We're going to make like this Pixar theory that everyone else likes to make for the films.
I definitely think that DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, and Tailspin, maybe Tailspin not, but in my opinion it operates all in the same universe.
Well, Darkwing Duck and...
That's clearly a spin-off.
DuckTales clearly does, because you have Gizmo Duck and Launchpad in that.
Actually, this brings up a question. Does that mean Goof Troop is in the same universe as Darkwing Duck?
They gotta be in the same universe as Quack Pack. It's the exact same scenario. I mean, a classic Disney character.
So wait a second. In Quack Pack, does that mean Donald just had 3 new nephews and named them the same? Or, like, are these just his same nephews?
Where are their parents?
You know what? Did his nephews just go through an asshole stage? Like, did they go through the Home Improvement Kids stage?
I'm still wondering what
Goofy's
wife looks like and what she died of. I guess dogs do die at a very young age.
And also...
in dog years, when
also,
did she die?
who would date Goofy?
Who would fuck Goofy?
Wow.
So somebody had to do it.
Alright, so speaking of which, Gadget, yay or nay?
What? Define yay or nay.
Would you chip that?
No, but I would tail that.
You would tail that? Okay.
I'd tail that right in the Monterey Jack. I would undo my zipper.
You would
and
tail
chip
that
her
tail
in her Monterey Jack.
You would chip her tail in the Monterey Jack. Wow.
And I would be a fat cat.
I think we covered everything.
You know she'd be like that big. I mean, she's a mouse. She's a fucking mouse.
Well, suspension of disbelief. I would assume that you are also of similar mouse size. Knowing you, that's probably the case. We're going to hell.
There was, actually, I will say, because I always make fun of people that are like, I like the bunny boobies, and I always make fun of people like that, but there was...
Oh, God, don't get those guys on you
No, but there was...
I am of the firm belief that just
don't talk to me.
Different strokes for different strokes for different folks. Fistful of furry, whatever. I have no problem.
No, but I will say there was a cosplayer somewhere on big surprise DeviantArt. Somewhere there's this really great photo of this woman who cosplayed as Gadget and was pretty much just herself, except I don't even know if she did the nose thing, but she just had this hair and these fake ears and stuff. She looked good. It was a really good cosplay. So it's yeah, maybe there is a way to how they draw them and stuff like that that's obviously trying to humanize them, but...
sorry, I was still thinking of Sexy Gadget.
That's what I was talking about. I'm talking about Sexy Gadget Plus, an actual human. You're still on Sexy Gadget.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to go down this road. So then we're just going to have a bunch of people who are going to, either be upset or be too enthused.
They'll be upset because we said too enthused.
It's never middle of the road. It's always, this was offensive thing you ever said, how dare you? Or it's just oh my God, text me your number. We should talk.
I have pictures. But no, human...
I don't know why I sounded like Tina from Bob's Burgers. Oh my God, we should talk.
She probably would be into that.
Actually, I think she is. I'm pretty sure they've been into that.
So, yeah,
maybe. Well, I know she's a brony, or at least in the context of that show, but...
So,
I don't know what else she's into. Oh, and zombies. Is that a Zuri? What do you call a zombie?
A zombie? A
Zamboni?
What? We're gonna get tons of people. I know exactly what they're called, sir.
How dare you? I'm insulted. No, seriously. You should text me your number already.
I'm a zombie. We're a growing group. That's gotta be it. Somebody must have done that. Zombie bronies or zombie ponies or something like that. We're really getting derailed here.
Whatever you guys are into, more power to him. It's him. He's the one who's always going off on
have
something.
Fun. Just, you don't need to share it with me. I'm good. If you're gonna share it with me, expect comedy. That's my precaution. Look, you can share it with me all you want, but I'm gonna make fun of it. It's just how it's gonna be.
www.goofingwithgadget.com.
Goofing with Gadget or Goofy
the goof trip,
with Gadget.
the goofy gadget shipping we've always wanted.
Goof shit. Oh my God, we're really sidetracked here.
Gadget.
How do we take
Gaffy.
How do we take something so beautiful and innocent like the Disney Afternoon and just...
Because that's what Quack Pack did!
End it there.
Boom!